we have got an amazing speaker for you. About a month, 2 months ago, we sat down and we were trying to find someone amazing to come and talk. We've been to some amazing Zooms in the last few months, and we've been to some pretty non-amazing Zooms. So we want a great speaker who is interactive, knows what she's talking about, and can give us something to help us in our daily life, and who knows, in something much, much bigger, hopefully. I have the great pleasure of knowing her. I've seen her work on Instagram and all her amazing workshops. You're going to love it. She is Dr. Upasana Gala. She's the founder and CEO of Evolve Training in Dubai. She's going to tell us more about that work, but she helps everyone from people who have serious needs such as stroke rehab, ADHD, autism, all the way up to performance enhancements with our brains. Who wants to get their brains better this morning? Put your hands up. Not everybody. Yes, 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 yes. Take it away, Dr. Upasana. Woo!
Thank you so much, Kat, for that lovely introduction. And I'm so happy to be here today and talk to you guys about my favorite topic, the brain. And for the longest time, as long as I can remember, I have been so interested and amazed by this incredible organ of ours that lives in our head. You know, when we were kids, we used to have those little books where they ask you questions like, what's your favorite color? What do you want to be when you grow up? My mom recently found an entry from when I was 10 years old, and it said that I wanted to be a scientist. My favorite color kept changing, but what I wanted to be never did. And, you know, when I finished school, I decided to move to the US because I knew there was more research I could do there. And I was 17 and I moved there all by myself. I didn't really know anybody in the country. I had no friends, no family. In fact, I'd never even been on an airplane before. So there I was, a scrawny little teenager carrying 3 giant bags that weigh more than me, ready for an adventure. And from then I moved on to do my PhD at Baylor College of Medicine in neuroscience, continued my love for the brain, and finally moved to Dubai a few years ago. So I had always kind of struggled with anxiety and anxiety-related insomnia. You know, I was an anxious kid. I grew up with an anxious parent, so I kind of assumed that this was normal. This is how everybody lived. And I had a lot of trouble sleeping. I would sleep for maybe 3 or 4 hours a night, and every 3rd or 4th night, I would sleep for 6 hours, which for me was like amazing. And all of these problems kind of started getting worse when I moved to Dubai, because it was for the first time in my life, I didn't really have anything to occupy me, my time, and my brain. And I came across this little meme one day. So, if you guys can see it. So there's this girl who's like, oh, men fall asleep so quick, bro, what's the secret? And then this guy replies saying, oh, we don't create fake scenarios in our heads that keep us up all night. Now, while I don't agree with the gender stereotyping, but that was me. You know, every little thing in my life, I would make such a big deal about it in my head. And while the real issue may be real and it might be small, but in my head, it's this giant, inconquerable thing, completely unreal and completely unnecessary. And it was really affecting my sleep. Already, I was a bad sleeper and my sleep was just getting worse. And I would just lay awake in bed trying to go to sleep, and my brain would just not shut up. It's like somebody left the radio on in my brain and I didn't know where the off switch was. And I realized pretty soon I need to do something about this, because this bad sleep was affecting every other area of my life. My focus, my mood, even my relationships. So that's when I heard about neurofeedback. Somebody introduced me to it and I was like, okay, I'll try anything. I want to try it. I need to get better. So that was the best decision I made in my entire life. I mean, I have never slept better. My anxiety is dramatically reduced. The same situation that I know in the past would send me down a spiral or keep me up all night, I recognize it now and I realize that it has no power over me. And having undergone this transformation in me, I realized I had to learn more about what this neurofeedback is. So I decided to go back to the US, become trained as a neurofeedback therapist, came back to Dubai, tried it on my very lovely friends and family who let me try it on them, and saw just as amazing results as I saw with me. So that's when I decided to start my company, Evolve Brain Training, which is at Business Bay. And we help people with everything, as Kat mentioned, from attention, focus to anxiety, stress management, improving your motivation, procrastination, all of these things. And it's all of neurofeedback is basically just using the ability of your own brain to self-regulate, to create lasting changes. So an analogy I often use to explain how neurofeedback works is, imagine you're walking in front of a mirror and your hair is messed up. Now, when you look in the mirror, you get that information about your hair being messed up, so you fix it, right? That's exactly what we do with your brain. We show the brain its own activity in real time, and when the brain sees what it's doing wrong, it can essentially self-correct and self-regulate. Because our brains and our bodies, they know, they have a self-correcting mechanism, but only if they know what they're doing wrong. So that's where we come in. And the way we show the brain what it's doing is using EEG sensors that listen to your brain, and then you get feedback in the form of audiovisual inputs. So this method of feedback-based behavior change is neurofeedback, and it's based on the principle of neuroplasticity. Before I go into neuroplasticity, I just want you guys to appreciate how incredible our brain really is. So if you can all just close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to think of a lemon. Okay, think of a lemon sitting right there in front of you. Imagine its round shape, the yellow color. Pick it up in your hand. I want you to feel the weight of it. I want you to feel its texture, all the little bumps. You can even kind of smell the citrusy smell. Then I want you to imagine taking a knife and slicing it in half. And then you pick up one half of it, bring it close to your face, take a deep whiff of that lemony, citrusy smell, and squeeze that lemon right into your mouth. So you can feel the tartness of the lemon juice, feel it dripping down your hands and in your mouth. And you can open your eyes now. So what did everybody feel? Please feel free to use the chat box generously. What did you guys feel, think, taste, smell, hear when you did this little experiment? A sharp taste, it was there. You had the lemon slice. Maybe, yes, you want a key lime pie. You got reminded of a memory. Some people's mouth started watering. You could feel the smell. Isn't that crazy? There's no lemon in front of you, but you can feel it, touch it, taste it, smell it. So that is our brain. You know, it's made up of billions of neurons that make trillions of connections with each other. And if you think about all of the stars in our galaxy, your brain has more connections in your head than all of these stars combined. And it's these connections that are responsible for everything you think, feel, and do. Now, for the longest time, it was thought that these billions of neurons that we're born with are the only neurons we have for the rest of our lives. But we know now from recent research in the last few decades that this is not actually true. We continue to create new neurons in a process called adult neurogenesis, especially in a very important part of the brain called the hippocampus. And as I'm sure you know, the hippocampus is the part of the brain that's responsible for learning and memory. So if you have ever learned a new hobby or a new habit, it's because of these new neurons in your hippocampus. And knowing how important these new neurons, these new adult-born neurons are to our continued learning, it would be interesting to know if we can actually increase our own neurogenesis, if it's in our hands or not. Fortunately for us, the answer is yes. It is actually in your hands how many more neurons you create as an adult. So we're going to do a little pop quiz. I'm going to give you guys a bunch of activities, and you tell me, maybe one of you can have your mic on. You tell me if it increases neurogenesis or decreases neurogenesis, okay? What about learning? What do you think?
Increases.
Definitely, it increases neurogenesis. So creates new neurons. What about stress?
Decreases.
Decreases.
That will decrease neurogenesis. What about sleep deprivation?
Decreases.
Sleep deprivation does decrease. Sleep is actually really important for learning and memory and to make sure that you create new neurons in your hippocampus. What about, let's say, intimacy?
Increases.
Increases.
Yes, very true. But remember, it's all about balance. You don't want to be in a situation where too much intimacy causes sleep deprivation. What about aging?
Oh. Decreases.
Decreases.
It does decrease. However, neurogenesis continues to happen even as you get older, but it decreases. But it is in your hands. If you are aging and you're doing all of these other things like learning and being intimate, exercising, all of these things, you can actually slow down the decline of neurogenesis even as you get older. What about physical exercise like running?
Increases.
It does increase. So not only does physical exercise increase neurogenesis, it actually makes your hippocampus bigger, it improves your learning and memory, and it also improves and increases the production of 3 really important neurotransmitters in your brain: dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. And these neurotransmitters are important for motivation, for your mood, make you happy, and they're important for you to be able to focus and pay attention. So knowing how much physical exercise does for our brain, let's start off with just like a 30-second on-the-spot jog. I want you guys to just get blood and oxygen to the brain. I know it's a little bit early morning for some of us, especially those of us from Belgium. So on the spot, jogging. Come on, guys. 30 seconds. Yeah. Get your heart rate up, get more blood and oxygen to our brain. Brain gets sharper.
There's a lot of people not putting their screens on here. Come on,
I can
people.
see that. I can see that there's a lot of people who aren't jogging. Yeah, I'm jogging.
3, 2,
Neurogenesis.
good job, guys. Stop sharing my screen. Okay, I hope everyone is feeling a little bit more awake than they were. Exercise is a much better way to wake your brain up than coffee. So, it's not only about the number of neurons. So it's great that we can create more neurons by doing all of these activities, but it's also about the connections that our brain makes. So the more connections our brain makes, the sharper we are, and the more neuroplastic our brain becomes. So before I go into more detail about what neuroplasticity really is and how it works, I want you guys to do another experiment with me. Okay, and I'm going to have to ask you to stand up again. No exercise, don't worry. Just stand up and raise your right arm and turn it as far back as you can go. And just pay attention to how far back you went. Just keep a track of what you can see. Okay, and then come back. All right, now we are going to close our eyes. We're not actually going to raise our hand, but we're going to visualize it. So imagine raising your arm just like you did, and then imagine turning as far back as you did. So look at what you were able to look at. Imagine looking at that. Now, imagine you're turning twice as far back. You're getting a really, really good stretch. Feel the stretch in your body. Feel it in your chest and your shoulders, and feel the twist in your back. Now imagine you're turning 3 times as far back as you did. So your body is made of rubber, it's like jello, and you're going all the way back. And you're coming back to the front, getting an amazing twist in your body. Now imagine you're turning 4 times as far back as you did. So you twist and even go all the way around and go back behind. And now imagine untwisting yourself and coming back to the center. And we're going to open our eyes now. And now raise that arm again. And now turn as far back as you can. And tell me who was able to go further this time. and the first time?
Yeah,
Me.
just a little. Yes, absolutely.
What about all the, let's hear in your comments, guys. Much further. So some of you would have been able to go a little bit further. Some of you would have been able to go much further. 25 to 50.
Much further.
Yeah. So those of you
Definitely.
much further are much better imaginers and visualizers. So tell me, the people that, everybody I think would be able to go further, right? But a little bit or a lot. Do you guys think that you were physically incapable of going that far the first time?
Yes.
You were, so what was the block
Yes.
to not be able to go that far? It was in your brain, right? It's a mental block. And when you did this imagination or visualization experiment, you started creating a new pathway, a new connection in your brain. And then the more you thought about that, the more your brain was able to believe it and manifest it. Because for your brain, thinking of or imagining doing something is exactly the same as actually doing something. So if you look at the brain scan of somebody who is playing tennis versus the brain scan of someone who's imagining playing tennis, the same parts of the brain light up. In fact, they did a study with a group of athletes, basketball players, where one group was told to practice, physically practice playing their game, and another group was told to imagine their practice, imagining their game tactics and what they're going to do. And then they tested both the groups, and there was no difference in their performance. So that's how important the story you tell yourself in the head is. Maybe everyone can have their mics off. So, if you're afraid of talking in public and you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm gonna suck, I'm gonna mess up, people are gonna hate me, I'm not gonna be confident, your brain believes it now, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. Whereas if you go into it thinking that you're gonna be great, you're gonna be confident, you're more likely, because your brain now believes that and will be able to manifest it better. And it's not just new age theory, it's actually based on the principle of neuroplasticity. That is how your brain really works. So let's do a couple of exercises now that help our brain's neuroplasticity. Exercises that will allow our brain to form new connections between its neurons. For this one, I'm going to need your hands. So I want you guys to make a thumbs up sign with one hand and stick your pinky out with the other. Now you have the thumb up with the other hand and pinky out with the first. Give you guys some time to do that. Okay, now we switch both together. So thumb and pinky. Do both at the same time. And switch again. We're gonna do this 5 times, guys. Switch, 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 and a couple more times. Switch and switch. Good job, guys. How was it? Tell me in your comments. Somebody's like, impossible, cannot do.
Not bad. Possible, I think.
So why?
I think the more you focus on it, the more you focus on what you're doing, you just
Right.
gotta be very conscious about it, because it's not in our muscle memory to do that.
So why exercise hard? The right hemisphere of your brain controls your left hand, and the left hemisphere of your brain controls your right hand. And usually our hands are used to mirroring each other's actions. So when you give each hand a different task to do, it really confuses the brain, but it is strengthening the connection between your 2 hemispheres. So the more you do this exercise, the stronger the connection between your 2 hemispheres becomes. And a brain that is better connected is better protected from future neurodegenerative diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. And do this exercise, maybe you were not so good at it today, but the more you do this, the better and better you will get at it. Now, the idea is not to be better at this exercise, right? But the more you do this, the better generally you will be at hand independence. So if you're a musician, I know there's a lot of creative people in here. If you're a musician, it allows you to have better hand independence if you're playing the keyboard or the guitar. If you are an athlete, it allows you to have fine motor skills that are better. And in general, if you're a multitasker like all of us today, it allows you to be better at that too. So it's a great exercise to strengthen the connection between our 2 left and right hemispheres and to protect us from future neurodegenerative disease. You only need to do maybe for like a minute in the morning, a minute at night. And once you get better at this, okay, once you get really fast at it, then it's time to switch it up. Because the whole idea is to keep challenging and stimulating your brain, not to be good at this exercise. You want to constantly challenge your brain. And that's what neuroplasticity is about. The best thing that you can do for your brain health to make sure that it's fit and sharp is to never stop learning. So whether it's learning a new musical instrument or a new sport or even a new hobby like crossword puzzles, make a pact with yourself to learn one new thing this year. And please don't tell me you don't have the time to learn something new, because we all know that we spend hours and hours on our favorite device, our phones. Which brings me to the next topic. So I realized this myself too. I was sitting on the couch, answering an email one day on my computer, and at the same time I had Netflix on TV behind it, and then I was texting my friend on WhatsApp on my phone. And I realized, what am I doing? How many screens is going to be enough number of screens? A lot of us, the first thing that they do when they wake up in the morning is look at their phone. Or the last thing that they do is look at their phone. Not even their spouse, but your phone. So, we can't even be at a coffee shop waiting for a friend without spending that time on our phone. We have just, as a species, forgotten how to be bored. And I know this round sounds really silly, but being bored is actually a really important activity for your brain. So you know how people always say that, oh, our brains are so distracted. Our brains are not distracted. Our brains are just overstimulated because we're constantly bombarding it with information from our phones and emails and WhatsApp and Instagram and all of these notifications. So much so that if we are not in this extreme high level of stimulation, anything less than that is just not enough. And that's why when you're talking to a friend, you can't pay attention to them or you zone out, because just talking to your friend is not enough stimulation for us. Or just reading a book is not enough stimulation for us. But we really, really need to relearn the art of boredom. Because when you are bored, when you're not constantly bombarding your brain with information, that's when your brain has the time to wander. And when your brain is wandering, that's where the magic happens. When your brain is wandering, that's when it has the time to make connections between all the different things you might have seen in your life. You know how sometimes you think, you're like, oh, this idea just came to me. That idea did not just come to you. That idea was probably forming in your head for days, weeks, months, or sometimes even years. But when you gave your brain that quiet time to, finally start making connections between these things and give you this, creative insight on something, that's why you get your best ideas when you're driving down a boring route or when you're taking a shower, because your brain is in this relaxed awareness state where it has the time to think of creative solutions or think of novel ideas. So don't underestimate boredom, guys. Make it your friend. And next time you're waiting in line for your coffee, just wait in line. Or next time you're at a red light, just wait at the red light without picking your phone up. So, well, while we're talking about creativity and about, this is creative mornings, right? I want to do a little creativity exercise with you guys. So I'm sure you guys are going to be all amazing. But this one, I need you all to just, everyone needs to interact with me in the chat box. We're going to do the alternate uses exercise. So here's a pen. Okay, I know that I can write with this pen. I want you guys to tell me as many alternative uses for it as you can think of. What else can I use this pen for apart from writing? Yeah. And I want to see as many answers as I can. And the more creative, the better. Maybe Bhavika, you want to read out some of the answers?
Yeah, sure. So we've got stir coffee, doorstop, spade. Use it as a hairpin to make a bun, magic wand, scratch, or using it as a baton, conducting an orchestra, poking someone in the eye, random. To eat with, Nicole says she could eat with her pen. That is a very creative use. Ear scratch, weapon, ear picker. Okay, a lot of us putting our pens in our ears. Using as a pointer, drumstick, bookmark, walking stick for tiny people. I don't know why none of us thought of that. Teasing your cat with it, Okay. Uh, Scratching, hair clip, painting, straw, projectile, bite to relieve stress. Okay. Hand exercises for coordination, pea shooter, cat toy, measurer, javelin, untie a knot.
Very nice.
Okay. Wow. Bookmark, balance on nose. Okay. Use the ink to ruin a perfectly good white shirt. I mean, yes. Why don't we think of
Or
that?
to make a tie and dye shirt. You can use
Yeah, absolutely. Open up plastic wrapping containers. Mustache, brush your teeth with. I'm gonna tell my dentist that the next time, Marifa. Hand massage. Okay, okay.
that. Answers, some that I never thought of. That's great. The source of plastic. Oh wow, we're going deep.
Picking our nose. Yes, deep indeed.
Love it. Uh, so, so what is the point of this exercise, right? We are activating our brain's abstract thinking abilities. And you know who is really good at this exercise? Kids. They just can come up with like incredible ideas that you would never even have thought of because they don't have this concept of something called functional fixedness, which we start forming around childhood, and then it gets stronger and stronger as we become adults. So functional fixedness is this idea that a thing can only be used for one purpose. And when you give kids toys, they're so much more excited about the box than the toy. Why is that? Because the toy is just a toy, whereas the box, on the other hand, can be anything. It can be a hole.
It's a possibility.
Porthole to another dimension. It can be anything. More excited about the box, and we have something to learn from that. As we get older, we have these fixed ideas about what things can be, also fixed ideas of about what we can be. But they don't have to be like that. We know that we can move ourselves along the spectrum by doing whatever, exercising in neuroplasticity, practicing boredom, being more creative, anything, whether it's like memory, focus. When people say that, oh, I have bad memory, I have bad focus, it's not something you have. Memory is not something you have. Remembering is something you do. Focus is not something you have. Focusing is something that you do. So it's a task, and like taking away from something you have to something you do gives you more control over it. And the more you practice, like any task, the more you practice it, the better and better you get at it, and you can move yourself along the spectrum. So you can practice getting better at focusing. You can practice getting better at remembering. You can practice getting better at being creative. And all of that is utilizing our brain's neuroplasticity to move from one end of the spectrum to another. And it's in our hands. We can do it. And let me turn my screen again. So I just want to leave you guys with my 3 favorite brain hacks. Never stop learning, practice boredom, and be playful like children. And that's it.
Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. That really, really was fantastic. Bhavika, do you want to jump in here?
Absolutely. So, wow, thank you so much, Upasana. That was amazing. I think there's like just possibilities first thing in the morning. So many possibilities. Yeah. So should we address our questions and answers? Questions, and she'll give us the answers. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
Yeah. So why don't you curate a few of those and let's see where it takes
Yeah.
us.
Okay. Amazing. So one question is, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in clients, in people you've worked with?
So honestly, the spectrum of people that come to me is really wide. My youngest client is 5 years old, this is 70, and they all come to me for different reasons, for focus, for anxiety, for depression. So everyone has different results. But some of the best ones are, people that used to be on anti-anxiety medications for 10 or 12 years. After working with me, some of them are completely off medications. Some of them are on half dosage or reduced dosage. One of my favorite stories is, I had a teenager, and the mom comes to me and she's like, I don't know what you did with my daughter. She comes home and gives me her phone, saying that the phone is too distracting for her, so she can focus on school. And she would have never imagined her daughter to part with her phone like this. So, there's lots of different examples, but they're very personal because people come to me for such different reasons. I have like entrepreneurs or CEOs coming to like improve their productivity, motivation, procrastination. And on the other hand, I also have people going through depression or PTSD. So it changes along.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, there's another question so Adnan has asked, what kind of impact would this have on someone who has ADHD? And I also had a question that how is this different from, like, how does this impact neurodivergent people versus neurotypical people? Because that's
Given the brain training that I do, neurofeedback, how does that impact?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
So the way it works is, so we have, we have the client sit in a chair watching something on Netflix while there are sensors attached to their head. And these sensors are measuring and monitoring their brain activity. Now, say their main issue is focus. You want to improve focus, right? Then every time they are focused, the sensors will sense that, and immediately the screen becomes full screen, it will be clear, and the sound will be good. But if they get distracted, think other thoughts, then the screen starts getting smaller, blurrier, and sound will get more muffled. Now, the big screen and the good sound, they are a positive reward for the brain. Brain likes it. So brain will try to do more and more of the activity that gives it that positive reward. So it'll try to be more and more focused or more calm or whatever it is we're training your brain to do. And then eventually, when you do this kind of training many times, because of the process of neuroplasticity, this becomes second nature to the brain. And then even when they're not in my office doing this exercise, they're at home, at school, trying to do their homework, the brain remembers these tools and techniques. So that's how we make changes in people with ADHD.
Okay, thank you for that. There's another one. What are bad brain habits to avoid? That's from Kiran.
Oh my God, the list is endless. But the number one thing, the phone, guys, like honestly, you don't understand the harm you're doing. It affects your memory, it affects your focus, it affects your attention, affects your sleep quality, all of this kind of thing. So I really think one of the biggest difference you can make in your life is, at least if you turn off your notifications. So, go to your phone when you want to go check your phone when you want to check, not because somebody texted you or somebody sent a notification. And also put all of the time sucking apps like Instagram, whatever, into a folder, and then put that folder on like page 3 or 4 of your phone. So you're not immediately tempted anytime you have a few seconds of free time, you're not immediately tempted to click on it. No screen times before bedtime. So, 1 hour, at least an hour. And if you are going to use your phone in the evenings, please turn on, everybody has to do this. They turn on the blue light filter on your phone or on your Apple iPad or whatever device you're using. That blue light is really bad for your sleep quality because it sends a signal to your brain saying, shut down the production of melatonin. It's not time to sleep yet. And so it keeps you awake. And even the quality of your sleep when you do sleep is bad because of that lack of melatonin in your brain. So I think I'm going to focus. There's so many bad habits you can avoid, right? But I'm just going to leave you with 2 or 3 easy ones that you can do. Turn off your notifications. Don't use your phone first thing in the morning. Don't use your phone last thing at the night. And put all your time-sucking apps onto page number 3.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one last question. And that one is, does stressing and thinking about different scenarios actually a form of learning which increases neurons?
Stressing about, sorry, say the question again.
Does stressing and thinking about previous scenarios actually a form of learning? Is it a form of learning which increases neurons?
It doesn't increase neurons, but it strengthens these connections between neurons that make you more stressed and make you more anxious. And then these scenarios become stronger and stronger in your brain. And then they become almost life, even if they don't actually exist in real life. Just because you spend so much time thinking about it, these become your well-traveled roads in your brain. And the more well-traveled it is, the more ingrained it becomes in you. And it's very hard to then get out of it. So that's, you saw it in action when you guys did the hand experiment. Your brain really
Right.
Every time you think of something negative, your brain is going to believe it and try to manifest it in your real life.
Okay, thank you.
That's wonderful.
All right then.
Round of applause. That's really. What's Kat doing? Oh, stopping.